Good afternoon, Cagesiders. It's Sean. This is a little bit outside of our normal podcast schedule because we are lucky enough to have a guest and an issue to talk to her about. So I am here with Maria Kanellis. Should we call you Kanellis-Bennett or just Kanellis fine?
You can just call me Maria if you want.
That's true. I promise I'm not going to say Maria Kanellis every time.
My intro is like this long, so it's like the First Lady of Professional Wrestling, Maria Kanellis-Bennett. After that, we have no time for the actual stuff we need to accomplish on air or TV or whatever it is. So you can call me Maria. That's a good one.
All right, we'll stick with Maria. And I also have Cageside's own Keith Harris with us from the UK. Hey, Keith.
Hi, how is it going, Sean?
It is going wonderfully. I get to talk about professional wrestling, so I'm happy. So for a little background, I'm really here just to sort of, facilitate this conversation between Keith and Maria. But just to give you a little background, Keith wrote a piece, I believe, was it last week?
Yeah, it was last week.
Okay, which basically summed up a lot of sort of what's been going on with TNA, who Maria works for. I guess Dixie Carter has stated that she is looking for outside investment, and that's led to a bunch of different reports from different people about who potential investors might be and what that might mean about the ownership group. So Keith was sort of replaying a lot of that conversation, and had a quote in there from Dave Meltzer at the Wrestling Observer about something that happened to him on WrestleMania weekend. I'll just read that. It's in Keith's post, and I'll link to that below this video. Over WrestleMania weekend, a TNA wrestler who I really don't know bumped into me. He joked about morale, saying that he was actually told to send a tweet by management about how great the morale is. He didn't, and said for the people who have been with the company for a long time, it was the worst ever. So that's sort of the impetus for this discussion. There's also a joke Twitter account called TNA Morale that does a joke, and Maria found out about some of these things and was tweeting on her own with a hashtag low morale, ironically, sarcastically.
Funny.
It was funny. I still laugh every time I see it. So we just wanted to give her an opportunity to come on and talk about, give her side of the story, so to speak, and then Keith and I will also have some questions for her, and we'll try to actually have a conversation instead of just yelling at each other on the internet. What an idea!
I don't like to yell on Twitter unless it's about The Walking Dead.
Fair.
It's funny when we're seeing all this stuff about that TNA office is telling us to tweet about hashtag low morale. That was my idea. So it's funny that it came across as office, because I guess now maybe I'm office. Because my husband and I were talking about it, and as we're playing with the football backstage at TNA, and while we're joking with our friends and so excited about the new talent that's been hired, and then reading online that TNA has low morale is funny, because it doesn't necessarily sum up what's really going on. Maybe there are people with low morale. But I don't have facts on that. All I can tell you is from what I've seen. And from what I've seen is that the morale at TNA is not much different than it is at Ring of Honor or the indie promotions that I go and hang out with my friends. So for me, I'm excited to be at TNA, and I'm excited to see all these people that are coming into TNA and now have paychecks and now have consistent work on television. So for me, it's just very confusing. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because I feel like the coverage is wrong. The coverage is going towards what's going on with TNA management and investors and in morale and all these things, but what's really going on is a great group of guys that is super inspired and motivated to create a whole new show. I like to refer to it as TNA 2 because it's such a new group of people. And we just want a positive atmosphere and a great place to work. And it's funny because somebody said to me, "Oh, well, doesn't that suck having to tape over 4 days? And isn't that terrible?" No, I worked for WWE. I had to go on the road every weekend. That was terrible on my body, on my family, on everything. Sure, it was great to be able to be in front of those crowds, but what is reported online is not necessarily the feel of everyone in the locker room. Maybe there are those few that have low morale. But if you want to come to anybody that told people that they should start making a joke of it, it was me. And I'll take full responsibility for that because Mike and I are excited to be there. We surround ourselves with very positive people. We don't know all that's going on with investors, but that's like if you ask me what was going on with my cell phone, it's the same thing. I don't have a connection with all the investors that are in Apple. I wouldn't even know where to start with that. You hear rumors, but is that necessarily true? I don't know. I've also been on movie sets before that had funding at the beginning of the day, and then by the end of the day didn't have funding, and then the next day we were filming anyways, and we did have funding. So entertainment world is very, very different. So you can't necessarily just say, oh, well, these are the investors. We don't know. The only way you know is not even if you're Dixie Carter, it's if you are the investors themselves. Because Dixie can't get inside the investors' minds either. The only person that knows what they're truly thinking about and believing and what they want to do is the investors. So all these random discussions out there in the world mean nothing. Because even if, let's say, Donald Trump decided he wanted to become an investor in TNA, he might, the last moment, decide, you know what? I don't want to be an investor. Whose fault is that? It's not TNA's. That's going to be Donald Trump's fault. So that's really what got under my skin, is that here I am in wrestling, excited to see this TNA go from being a company on Destination America to coming to Pop TV and having all of this excitement and energy and everybody really excited to be there and build something, and then reading all this stuff about investors and reading all this stuff about low morale. And while we're hiring these new people, their stories are getting glossed over. Everybody should be super excited. Pepper Parks and Cherry have jobs on television. They are incredible talent. And, because all these other side stories are happening, we're not really paying attention to what's going on. Mike and I and Pepper and Cherry and Trevor and, you've got Allison Kay, who's now Sienna, and you have all these people that have jobs. You have all these people that are that want to build something, to create something. And sorry, I'm very passionate about other people, so I'll talk for days. But that's what bothered me. That's what got to me, because I want the positivity sent out in the atmosphere and into the universe of what we're all feeling, so that we are a company that people can come to and come to work. So that's my soapbox. There you go.
Well, thank you.
Of course.
If the low morale thing came from you, that's just proof that what a lot of people are saying, which is that you're the best thing about TNA right now. So you're
well, and I had a long conversation with Dixie and with Big and with Brighter and all these people about it, because I was like, I don't understand. It's like I don't get it. I was like, okay, so I'm going to hashtag and see what happens. And Mike's going to hashtag and see what happens. And then it just built from there. But that's amazing, too, with what happens with media. Everybody's guessing right now what happened with my hand. And I'm not going to say. Why would I? You guys will tell the story. I mean, and probably it'll be, a story that I can build off of. But, that's how media works. And that's how this world works now in wrestling, of like, if we don't tell our story, if we don't really say what's going on, everyone else is going to just assume. And you've got your Dave Meltzers of the world that, yeah, sure, maybe he has some great connections, but you're only getting one tiny slice. You like my claw hand here? I'm trying to do
built in for the slice.
Yeah. But you get one slice of the whole picture. And that's the difficult part. And that's the part that I would like to change, is to get ahead of these things and to talk to the media. And I'll field questions. And if you don't like something, or if you don't like, how the storyline is, that's fine. That's perfect. I don't like how Walking Dead is all the time. And if I had to watch an episode of certain characters every single week, it would drive me insane. But sometimes writers, I've noticed, don't actually watch the show. So it's like, what are you writing about? You're not watching. So watch. And then if you hate it, that's fine. But at least, watch these new characters. And Mike and I, we talk about it too. Like, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be in wrestling. We eventually want to start a family, and we don't know. And only if you are those multi-millionaires can you afford to two people be on the road with a nanny. And Mike and I are not that. We're trying, but we're not that. So one of us will eventually have to get off the road. So in my head, what I'm thinking is, okay, you've got two people that have been in wrestling. I've been in wrestling now for 12 years. He's been in wrestling for 15. We have kids. Those kids are going to want to be in wrestling. Will I want that? I don't know. But what I do know is I want them to have places to work. So I look at my future in wrestling, going from being on WWE to in Ring of Honor and really learning what I could do and couldn't do, and then in TNA, to where in TNA what I would like the most is to be that person that can help others grow this company. So that's how I look at wrestling right now. And I love my own performance, to have fun and do all that stuff. But what I love more is other people starting to really shine. And Jade's promo from last night, which you probably haven't seen yet because it's UK, but watching her grow into that, her real true character is amazing. That gets me excited.
Should I chime in?
Yeah, Keith, I was gonna let you have some questions, have a conversation. I can ask stuff, but I want to leave the floor to you.
So one of the interesting things, after I posted my article, which may have been a bit heavy-handed in hindsight, is that one of my friends was telling me how comparing morale in TNA and WWE, actually, with TNA it's been blown out of proportion and the morale isn't that bad there compared to maybe WWE. And we've seen recently that people like Wade Barrett and Ryback leaving the company unhappy with certain issues, maybe how they're being pushed and how they're being treated. So do you think that in some respects, TNA's had a bit of a bad rap in that regards, in terms of maybe how WWE and TNA are covered in the media?
Well, I think with WWE there's a lot of stories out there. They're constantly having stories. So what happened with Wade Barrett or Ryback, or that story is going to change tomorrow. Tomorrow you're going to be talking about someone doing a charity event. Tomorrow you're going to be talking about, oh, well, this person got this push on TV. Tomorrow you're going to be talking about something else. Whereas with TNA, it sticks on one story for a very long time. And that's because there aren't as many stories being put out there about different topics. Now, do we all do charity work? Yeah. Do we all go out and do those things? Yeah. But those stories aren't out there in the media. And it's not the media's fault and it's not TNA's fault. It's just how it is. Those stories aren't being covered because, one, either someone isn't giving it to the media, or two, the media is not interested in covering it. So I can't answer that part of it, but what I can say is because there are so many stories all the time with WWE, it's a gigantic company. That place is huge compared to TNA, which just right now has the television product. It doesn't have movies and a network and a this and a that and a that. So all you're ever going to focus on is that one story that you attach to for a very long time. Would I prefer it to be different? Sure. I would love for someone to cover, how many of us are in college right now. I would love for somebody to come and cover that, who we meet backstage, and the special needs kids, or someone's family at home. Cover that story. WWE does it all the time. So I would love for more of that to be happening for TNA as well, because there are those tremendous stories about families. I'd love for somebody to talk to how much it means to Cherry and Pepper to now be on television together. That's so cool. They signed together. They're a married couple. So it's I would love for those stories to get out there. It just seems to me that there's a lot more different kinds of stories in WWE, and there's a very similar story all the time with TNA, which I think, to nobody's fault, but that it gets stuck on something, and it's an old TNA story. It's not new. This is the story that's been told for probably the last 5 years. It's the story that I've been looking at and going, do I sign with TNA? I don't know. Should I sign? I read all this crap, and then I talk to people. I'm like, oh, it's not that. So it's just. I think that WWE, a lot more stories. That's that's the difference.
I think partly it's the nature of having to take TV in a batch, because you have all the news from the tapings, and then nothing happens other than maybe people review the show every week. Yeah. So that definitely is a big difference between TNA and WWE. I think also WWE just has a much bigger PR infrastructure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So every day it seems like I'm getting an email, because they have these mailing lists to journalists saying we've done this, we've done that, and TNA hasn't got the same resources as WWE to push their message out into the public as much.
Right, and I've discussed with them, and I'm hoping something changes in the future. Is I would like to start inviting the media to come to our tapings, but that's difficult, because then you're working with not only TNA, but then you're also working with Universal Studios. So then you get into this whole weird situation. So as much as I would like that to happen, right now it's not feasible. But could it be in the future? I think it could. The other thing that I would like to happen is to be covering what our guys are doing on the indies, just like they do in Ring of Honor. So Ring of Honor guys, a lot of them work for PWG. They work for, they might go over and do the UK and do Preston City. Maybe they go over to New Japan, all these different things. So our guys, they travel too. I would like for those stories to get out there as well. I mean, and Drew is I think he's the busiest out of all of them. Drew is a wild man. So I would love for those stories to get covered. This TNA wrestler was here, this TNA wrestler was there, and then they all came together and worked here, which I think is so interesting, because we're pulling in styles from everywhere. I mean, you've got Trevor that, he is a beast. I've known him now for years, and he is still a baby. But so you've got these guys coming in doing all these different styles, and then they work together for this one weekend or 1 week, and that's really cool to see as well. So I'll keep you posted on if eventually we can start bringing some media in. But again, with Universal Studios, that's also very, it's Universal Studios protects their brand, and TNA protects our own brand. So it's working together is very interesting to get media and stuff backstage.
Do you think there would be value in rebranding TNA? I mean, do you think that's part of that this 5-year story has gone on, and people have the LOL TNA stuff that they say on Twitter and in comment boards? I mean, I'm sure it sounds like it's frustrating to you that you spend a lot of time trying to re-educate people about that instead of just focusing on the storytelling. So, I mean, would that be, if you had your druthers, would that be something you would consider?
I I think that's what we're doing now. And maybe it's not so in your face of the new name of TNA is whatever.
Right.
It's not that cut and dry. But my husband and I are doing that on our own personal level. And then the new talent is doing that as well. They're bringing in their own styles. Just since I've been there, so many people have left and new people have joined. So it's like that's happening. But again, it's just, is that story out there? Is it being told out there? Or do people still think that AJ's with our company? And, he's not with us anymore. Although that match that he had this past Sunday was amazing. I mean, so it's like, you know, those guys aren't here anymore, and that's okay because it's a wheel. Like, we all go everywhere. I work WWE, Ring of Honor, New Japan. Now I'm here. Who knows where I'll be in a couple of years, or if I'll still be doing this. So, like, it's a wheel. So we're not that TNA anymore. You know, and even Kurt Angle is gone, which may be very sad. But, you know, Kurt Angle's not there anymore. So I think from that generation before us, we only have a few amount of guys, maybe 5 or 6. So it's already starting to change. And just since I put out the low morale stuff, I think people got it. That it's funny. It's funny because that is not our story. And I'm not mad about it because from an outsider's perspective, you would think we were all, oh my God, what's happening? But we're not. Most of these guys, they make a living on the independents, and so we're not freaking out. And we know that we have a deal with Pop TV. It's not like that's going anywhere. So it's like, to me and to everybody else that, you know, was friendly with me, we think it's funny.
And it probably helps to, I mean, just being in other kinds of organizations, not even wrestling ones. I mean, if you're at the same office or you're on the same tour all the time, then you know, gossip and the morale gets worse. But you guys don't even see each other that much. I mean, unless you reach out to do it. So.
Well, I mean, I used to see the Ring of Honor guys all the time, and I love them. They came to my wedding. So I don't even think it's that. I think the energy that I feel when at TNA is just, let's build something fucking awesome so everyone has to watch. Let's just do it. Let's go out there and, you know, and kill it so everybody has to pay attention. That's the feeling I get backstage.
Do you think it's just a slow rebuilding process because, you know, TNA's had several setbacks in recent years, losing talent, losing TV deals, that, you know, it's just a slow rebuilding process to change the narrative that, you know, that TNA, you know, is on the comeback, say.
Well,
road,
I think that it's not necessarily a rebuilding within. I think it's more a rebuilding outside, rebuilding that image of come watch, come have fun, come yell at us. You know, whatever it is, so that people can see the company for what it is now, TNA 2, rather than TNA before. Because if you have that bad taste in your mouth because your favorite wrestler left for whatever reason, or you read a story online, then you're not really paying attention. You're not really getting invested. If you just want it to be like it used to be when, you know, 10 years ago, you're not going to have that. What you need to do is wipe the slate clean. Watch it now. And if you still hate it, fine. But if you wipe that slate clean and watch it and enjoy it, then, hey, we got more fans, you know, more people come in and watch. So that's what I think. What I think is it's not necessarily a rebuilding within, because I think all the pieces are there. And, like, the stories have just been great. And Drew as champ is just fantastic. Like, and his accent, you can't understand a word backstage. Somehow when he gets out there, I can understand everything. But when he's backstage, I'm like, huh? What are you saying? You know, like, but once he's out there, it's fantastic. So I think it's more, you know, dusting off that old crap and, starting new.
I used to live in Glasgow, so I'm used to accents like Drew's.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
I'd be just as lost as you are, though, Maria. I wouldn't understand a word.
It's so funny when everybody gets going too. Oh my gosh, you got Drew's accent, and then you got Spud's accent, and then Grado gets involved, and then they're all just going, and I'm just like, girl from the Midwest. What are you talking about? It's amazing.
See, we need a reality show backstage with just this stuff.
Oh gosh. Well, the thing is the guys, you would like them even more. The girls you would just think are smelly, because between the makeup, the hairspray, the this, the that, it's just not attractive. Like, I always used to laugh with the divas backstage at WWE. Like, if guys really knew what we put on ourselves, like, there's no way. You'd be like, you stink. Carlito used to tell us we stunk all the time. Like, so the guys would come out great. The girls, though, I don't know. If they really saw, what we really do before the match.
Mm. Yeah, there's a hook. Now we all want to know. Keith, did you have anything else, or?
So, one thing I should mention is that I did go to the Manchester TV tapings, and I think it does back up a lot of what Maria said. It was a very fun show. There was a couple of very good matches. Kurt Angle versus Drew Galloway. Galloway proving he's one of the best workers in the world, and also a hardcore match between Decay and I think it was Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards.
Yeah.
So I think
they're doing so great. Decay, oh my God, so good.
Yeah, it's a really quirky gimmick. I like it, and I would say, the only drawback I had from the tapings was just the length, in the sense that 4 hours is a long time to keep a crowd engaged. But I thought, there was a lot of good stuff on the show itself. So I would always say to people, check out TNA when they can, especially live. There's nothing like live wrestling.
My favorite thing about live wrestling and actually being there is that I can interact with the front row. So, like, it's just so funny, because it's like, sometimes when you watch it on TV, you think, oh, well, they can't really hear me, they can't whatever. I can hear everything. So there'll be times I'll turn around to the front row and be like, I heard you the first time. Thank you. I heard you. Like, and it's just, I love that interaction, which, I have in TNA, I had in Ring of Honor and New Japan. I couldn't have necessarily in WWE, just because sponsorships and all this kind of stuff. So for me, I do love that, that I do get to choose my own adventure, especially when I'm standing out there next to the ring.
Do you think, or do you hope that touring comes back for TNA, or do you think sort of the indie, go off and do your own thing, come back together for the Super Show thing is better for you guys?
Well, I don't know. I know that a lot of people would love to have those house shows back. And, to get to meet the fans again and be around is really cool, because it's always been, and, with television, you have the television show to build your live audience. Like, that's how wrestling was built, in essence. That's how WWE was built. So do you hope for that? Sure, because then people get to know you, and at like a smaller level, at a house show level, so that, it builds that desire to tell your friends and tell, all this. So I hope it does. Do I know? No. I don't think anybody knows.
Right.
I don't think anybody knows at this point exactly when or if that's going to take place.
Right.
And if anybody is telling you anything, It's funny because
No, I mean that's why I changed my question. Like, do you hope? Because I was just curious what you if you
no,
thought that was a better.
and that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's like I do hope so.
Yeah.
But I hope it doesn't get too crazy because I have school.
You like not being on the road 5 days a week?
I like being go on the road for 4 or 5 days and come home. I mean, I'm full-time student right now. Actually, next week is when a lot of my final projects are due,
Right.
and then I have exam week after that. So for me, this schedule is great. I can do my schoolwork and I can go to TNA.
Excellent. Keith, good?
Yeah, all fine. I think
All
it's been a very fun conversation.
I agree. I'm glad we could all get together and do this. So, and I would also just chime in. I have not seen TNA live, but I have been watching the show, and I would encourage people to on Cageside. Kyle Decker covers you guys every week with previews and reviews. And from what I've been watching, I mean, I think the feud that your husband has going on with Ethan Carter III is probably my favorite angle on the show. So send the word along, and I'll try to keep spreading the word on our end. And
yeah, and I mean, if you ever have questions about stuff, ask me. I'm very candid. Like
Cool.
I believe that you're only as good as your word, and that word, whether it be a promise or it's just what you're stating. Like I truly believe that. So if I have an answer for you, I'll give it to you. If I don't, I'll just say I don't know, and nobody knows. So, because I like that, you know, and I see David Lagano's doing the same thing of reaching out to the media. Because we did too. I think for a long time TNA alienated the media in a sense of not having a dialogue back and forth, and because we don't have a gigantic PR crew.
Right.
So if you have questions, send them my way. You got my email.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean,
sure.
I wish I could promise that we won't run any more like investor stories, but we will. But
that's fine. I don't.
we
I don't
do the other stuff too. I promise.
I don't mind stories, but what I love is that the new guys get covered. That's all. You know, of course, you have your sources, you have your stories. That's fine. Just cover the new guys. Get their word out there because they deserve it. They work their butts off, especially the ones that came off the indies. And beating feet on those indies sucks. So I'm happy that they have the opportunity that they do now.
Cool. And we will try our best to do that. And call us on it if we don't. You've got our email. So.
You know I will.
Invent a new hashtag. So follow Maria. It's at Maria L. Kanellis on Twitter. Yep. And, you know, include the hashtag low morale so I get a laugh out of it at least.
Of course.
Keith, you can find him on Twitter as well. What's your handle, Keith?
Glasgow KJH.
But you can always find him on Cageside Seats too, and I am at S1 Rueter, always on Cageside Seats. So thank you both for joining me, and thank you for watching this whenever you watch it, and follow the conversation back at Cageside. Tune into Impact Tuesday nights on Pop TV. Thanks.
Hey, thanks.